Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I'm meadsyreplays. Welcome back to the channel. In today's video, we are going to play and talk about the Type 71, the Japanese tier 10 heavy tank that was once completely cooked. It was completely insane, very, very strong, like OP level strong. But Wargaming obviously have changed the tank since, and I haven't played it for a very long time. So we are going to revisit the tank. If I remember correctly, the last time I played the tank, I do believe Wargaming nerfed it a little bit too much. So there were some things about the tank that were very, very good, very, very unique, that made the tank like OP, and that being the equipment. So as we know, there are some tanks out there that receive consumables, etc., where this tank received equipment that was different to every other tank. So the third one along at the top, those of you that don't know, you can put equipment on the tank that no other tank has got to make it better. Now, when it was first released, we looked at that and thought, oh my god, this improved vertical stabilizer gives your tank an extra 3 degrees of gun depression. Like, that's 6 degrees up to 9 degrees. Absolutely crazy numbers. Like, I know 3 don't sound a lot, but it is massive. 3 is massive. Like, 6 degrees is poor, 9 degrees of gun depression is actually very, very good. Or if you, and at the time, straight away, we looked at that. A lot of people looked at that and thought, bang, I'm having that, because that is, on a ridge, that is insane. So I started running the improved vertical stabilizer equipment. That was until people were like, dude, why are you running that equipment? I'm like, what you're talking about? It gives you 9 degrees of gun depression. And they were all like, no, you need to use the other one, the one next to it, which is the improved suspension. Now, what this did was give you average speed, the whole turn rate more, the terrain crossing capacity. They all got sort of big numbers. Of course, since then, Wargaming have nerfed this, because that is where this tank was very, very much overcooked, because these were all a lot bigger numbers to what you are seeing now, and that just made the tank a lot more maneuverable. Like, you can wiggle, it was a quick tank, and it was completely different. And in fact, when you started running that, you were like, dude, I don't need gun depression when you got this. People would struggle. You know, you had the armor profile as well to go with it, and when you've got the mobility of this tank, which it had with the traverse, etc., it was insane. It really was. But rightly so, Wargaming, you know, they figured it out. They figured that this tank, for a Tech Tree tank at least, it is too strong, and it was. I'm not gonna lie, it was very, very much too strong. So they nerfed it. They nerfed it, and then they made the tank kind of average. Now, I went to play the tank again, and I was probably a little bit too harsh on the tank. It is still a very good tank. It's a very, very good tank, but still nowhere near as good as it once was. So your turret is 203 millimeters, but you do have a very naughty little hatch on top that is very frustrating, because anybody can penetrate it. So if you are sort of in a hold down position behind a rock, you have that little hatch on top that is very annoying, because anybody can penetrate that. Your hull is 178 millimeters. Now, your hull is actually very, very strong, and people that are coming up against you with normal rounds, it is actually hard to penetrate. It's sloped, it is very difficult. But when you switch to your premium rounds, like, it goes all grey. Anybody can just shoot you in the face and they will penetrate. So that's where, you know, they nerfed the tank. I do think they should have buffed it just a little bit more, just to give it a bit more armor on your hull, but you know, they never did. So your DPM 2379. It's not the best DPM, and that is a 10.59 second on your reload. Your penetration is 278 on your AP, 362 on your premium AP, which is still very, very good, and 65 on your HE. You've got a 420 alpha gun, 400 on your normal on your premium AP, and 530 on your HE. Your aim time is 3.7, so nothing to write home about, the same as the gun dispersion at 0.344, and you have, of course, 6 degrees of gun depression unless you run it with the gun depression, which sometimes now I feel it is probably better to run it with the gun depression. Since they've nerfed the improved suspension, you're not getting too much more. I mean, you get a little bit. You can see the terrain crossing up 19, the water up 20, so yeah, you go a little bit quicker, but nowhere near as you used to be. So we're just going to get into a battle which I had, which is a decent battle, nothing too special, and then we're going to talk about the tank going forward. So again, what equipment you run it with is totally up to you. It is totally up to you. You could either have it a little bit quicker, or you can have it a little bit more better when it comes to on the ridge. All depends on how you play the game. Now, personally, I do like to go on a ridge, especially with a tank with a strong turret, especially with a tank with good gun depression. I do like to sit on a ridge. So really, for me, it's probably going to be better running it with the extra gun depression, because that's how I like to play this tank. Now, of course, I didn't like to play my tank like that when it was overpowered, but now it's not so much overpowered. It's totally up to you what you run it. There is no right or wrong, really. Some people will say, what you on about? Run it with this suspension. Some people, what you on about? Run it with the V-subs. It is totally up to you. It all depends on your style of play. Now, as you can see, we decide to sit on a ridge anyway, even though we do only have 6 degrees of gun depression, because I still think at this position here, the 6 degrees is enough, especially when you are aiming through town here. You can still see that we can get our gun down, but it would just be a little bit better if we had 9 degrees where we are now, because, you know, I don't see the benefit of the suspension in the position I'm in, where I would see a massive benefit of an extra 3 degrees of gun depression. It just means I don't need to show as much as my tank. I can come back a bit, or I can go more on a ridge, and easily be able to get my gun down. But, you know, we're not running it. We are still running the improved suspension, and we're just going to sit tight because there's 2 tanks down now on the enemy team. Now, I do know the enemy have got 2 very, very good players, one being in that object 268. So if I can go for him, a free shot, which I like to call a free shot because he wasn't looking, someone else took the attention. So yeah, of course, if I can get rid of good players first, I will do just that. So you can see that he penetrates me very, very easy. Like, no problem whatsoever with that guy penetrating. But there comes a time now where there's just 3 tanks left, and I'm thinking, you know what, it's a 6 versus 3, let's just go a little bit forward because they are all hiding. I'm no good sitting on a ridge in that position, and this is where then the improved suspension would probably help a little bit more. But even at this point, to be fair, when it's a 6 versus 3, we're smashing it on supremacy points. I don't even care at this point if I die. The one thing I want to do right now before I die is just to farm up a little bit more damage before my team get here, because I am furthest forward, my team are on their way, so I did want to farm up just a little bit more damage before my team basically get there. So we've managed to get 3k damage, and at this point I'm happy with 3k. I'm happy with 3k. Anybody should be happy with 3k. Excuse me. That happens a lot. I've got a new phone, and because I got a lock on it, it just locks every, I think it's like 3 minutes or something like that. Very, very annoying. So I do apologize if you do keep seeing that in my videos. So now we have 3.8k. Let's just go for the little bit of RAM just to see if we can break the 4k. I mean, we was 4 damage off, but well, do we get above 4k? But we do manage to block 1500 damage. So you can still see the arm profile can work when you're in certain positions. If you're on a hole, try to make it hard for the enemy. Don't just sit there. Don't just sit there, because again, as I've said, you do have a big hatch on top that is easily penetrated. So do be careful of that. And when it comes to equipment, run what you are happy with. If you're, like me, a ridgeline kind of guy or gal, then run the extra gun depression. But if you're sort of a brawling kind of guy or gal, then yeah, definitely the suspension. But let me know in the comments what you think of the Type 71. As I said, I don't play it much no more, but it definitely was a tank I loved playing before the nerf. So I hope you enjoyed today's video. I'm meadsy69, and I'll catch you all soon. Bye bye.